Now, WJC's Purple Playbook, brought to you by M&T Bank.
And welcome into Purple Playbook. I'm Alex Glaze, joined as always by two-time Super Bowl champion Torrey Smith. Preseason's over, training camp is over, almost time for the real deal. It's hard to believe how fast this month has flown by.
It's flown by. I remember us talking all about Lamar's contract and OTAs.
Which still isn't done.
And now the real thing is here. You're right. You were right. Nothing ended up happening. But again, it's not as big a deal as we thought. The real season is right around the corner, and I'm excited about it.
Yeah, there's a lot to get to as we kind of put training camp in the rear view and put the preseason in the rear view as well. Now we have roster cuts to look forward to. The deadline Sunday at 6 o'clock. And this is going to be Jesse Minter's first roster cut as the head coach of the Ravens. How is this going to look? We know how John Harbaugh and Eric DeCosta like to work together to construct the roster. But what is this collaboration going to look like? Jesse Minter spoke about his approach to creating the 53-man roster earlier this week.
I think you come up in this profession, you get to this spot, like you want to help identify the guys on the team, and I think we work really well together in that regard of kind of what we want the team to look like. So it's constant, just conversations, communication, collaboration, and again, just trying to all put our heads together to come up with the best roster possible.
All right, well, the best possible roster can mean a lot of different things. We know that teams have different philosophies when it comes to creating the roster. Some look at the 53-man roster and they have to have 25 offensive guys, 25 defensive guys, and of course your 3 specialists. Doesn't sound like that's how Jesse's going to approach this. It sounds like he has an idea of how he's going to do things, and it's really going to come down to who is the best player available, especially when you're looking at those back-end position, when you get to the end of the 53.
Absolutely, in the back end of the roster, the key is special teams type of guys. It's not just about being a returner. It's those guys that have the ability to run and tackle and block. And what that means is, are you going to keep an extra DB? Will you keep an extra DB if he can be a gunner, if he can be a guy that can block on the front line or whatever it may be? Because you look at the receivers on the back end, if you're a receiver that's not starting as a gunner or have the ability to block, it's very hard for you to make the team if you're not the starting returner. And same way, like that, it normally boils down to certain positions. So it could be, are we going to keep an extra tight end, or do we have a linebacker that can fill those roles on special teams? The back end is simply about special teams, but you don't want to let good guys that have potential leave because they don't have the most special teams ability. That's why it's a fluid situation, and you have to identify who the best players are.
I'm really interested in what the synergy, and we'll never know the answer to this, what it's like behind closed doors, because Eric has worked with John for so long, right? I mean, almost 2 decades. We're talking about John and Eric working together, constructing this thing, and now it's a new voice, right? And Jesse hasn't been in this position before. What is that song and dance? Does he lean more on Eric? Does Eric kind of give Jesse kind of the keys to this a little bit more? I'm just interested in what that dynamic is going to be like. How do you think that plays out kind of behind closed doors?
Well, I feel like you have the leadership is already there, right? Anytime you still see Ozzie Newsome walking around there and you see Eric DeCosta, these are guys who've been at it for 20 plus years, right? And they understand no one evaluates players better than the Baltimore Ravens. So now, with that framework, how do you add coaches that feel like, hey, these are my guys, and they have a voice? And I think that's what's been the secret to their success. There hasn't been any major issues where you've seen the organization completely on different pages when it comes to who should have made the team, right? Whether it happens in that moment or it happens after someone leaves, those stories normally pop out if there's trouble in paradise. And I think the Ravens just have it down. Like, they are the gold standard for what it looks like to evaluate talent. And for coaches, it's about making sure you have the right guys that fit your scheme. But really, I think you see an organization that really brings it all together and trusts each other.
And when it comes down to it, the philosophy would be the same too. That's why Jesse was brought in. You know, he kind of subscribes to the same philosophy as the guys that are in the building. And you know, we're not talking about anybody, I don't think, that's on the bubble that's going to make a significant difference. Probably when we're talking about it, because they've already got the horses in the stable a little bit. So, you know, the big question going into the preseason was, what is this offense going to look like? What is Lamar Jackson going to look like with this new offense and Declan Doyle? We kind of got an answer to that in joint practices when we kind of got to see the curtain peeled back a little bit. But Lamar obviously has not played at all and didn't play at all in the preseason. So is he ready for week 1? He answered that question earlier this week.
Absolutely. I feel like my guys progressed each and every week. We got better, dialing in and building chemistry.
Lamar's a guy that, you know, if you looked at the Baltimore Banner's anonymous poll, I'll reveal my votes, right? Because we're talking about a player that has stood out to you throughout camp. Lamar Jackson is the guy who got my vote, because when you look at years past for him, he is a guy that, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's just a coincidence, maybe it is, but it seemed like he is more dialed in this year, right? And with this new offense, it seems like you're always seeing him around Declan Doyle. He's always around his quarterback's coach. He's always around his guys and it seems like intentionally they're on the iPad when, the second team is out there working. It just seems more intentional with Lamar this year, and that's probably a byproduct of this being new. But when you're asking about week one, of course, you know better than I do that there's going to be some bumps in the road, right? There's going to be some growing pains, but I feel like they could potentially hit the ground running because that Colts team is there's nothing really to write home about. I don't
as long
think.
as Lamar Jackson's your quarterback, I fully expect the offense to go out and shine from day one. I don't care if the offense is new or not. You know the plays. Go out there and play ball. And Lamar Jackson is a gamer. But the one thing that I will say is I played in some preseasons, and we looked really good. And we stunk it up when the season started. And I played in some preseason games where we looked terrible and we were on fire when week one started. So preseason does not tell the whole story. That's just for fans to feel good about themselves and to get out there. Like, who's going to pat them? You should not be patting yourself on the back for executing a basic drive, running your basic plays against a vanilla defense. Like, that doesn't prove anything. So to me, it's about getting out there, getting through camp healthy, having your guys, and then the real work comes in those first 4 to 6 weeks when you identify, hey, this is who we thought we were until we ran into other competitors and bodies might have changed in between then and now. This is what we do really well, and this is how we plan on finishing this thing going forward. That's the biggest deal, understanding who you are. They have an idea of who they are now, but it operates in phases from personnel to making it through camp to seeing what really happens when the bullets are flying to dealing with a little bit of adversity. But I think this team is ready to roll.
Yeah, and you're talking about health. Rashad Bateman is a guy who's obviously had his health challenges throughout his career. Mm-hmm. He looks healthy. He looks good. You were out there to join practices, one-on-ones. He was doing his thing out there. What are you expecting to see from Bate this year? Because I feel like all of the talk is about Zay, rightfully so, Jacoby Lane. It feels like Bate's kind of gone under the radar, but I think we're on the same page here where I think Bate's going to have a monster year and going to really thrive in this offense.
Yeah, I think Rashad Bateman's going to have a major year as well. There's some guys that think he may even have over 600 or so yards, like that type of a big season for the org. But I'm looking forward to watching him, and here's why. Everyone's talking about Jacoby Lane. Jacoby Lane is definitely going to be involved in his offense, but the guy that has the ability to do more is Rashad Bateman. He looks exactly like the first-round draft pick that he is. He's been winning one-on-one, and he's going to get those one-on-one matchups. The biggest thing for him is just health and actually getting the ball. Rashad Bateman has never had a problem getting open. He just only had to be on the field. And with this offense, I think the opportunities are going to present itself. And he looks like he's prepared for the moment. And Jacoby Lane is obviously the star of camp with some of the highlight plays he's been able to make. But Rashad Bateman has still been more steady. He just hasn't maybe had those flash plays that you see that Jacoby's able to make. Really quick before we go to break, you brought up Jacoby Lane so many times. So many people want to know your thoughts. What are your realistic expectations for Jacoby in his rookie season? I expect him to be a guy that wins in the red zone, one-on-one matchups, having the opportunities to go up and get the ball. Big target for Lamar. At this stage, it's going to take some time for him to kind of get up to speed. People see the flash plays, but once you get to the real action, it's going to be really hard. I think the offensive coordinator, Declan Doyle, is going to put him in position to win those matchups. He will have it because Zay and Bateman are going to command some attention, and Derrick Henry. So he's going to be ready to win one-on-one. Just please give him some grace. Don't let the preseason plays make him feel like he has to go out and have 300 yards every single game. That's just not realistic. He just needs the time to learn and grow, and by the time he gets to the middle of the season and to the playoffs, he's going to be a star for this team. Marlon Humphrey revealed on his podcast that the only reason Jacoby's even in the league is because he was told that he wasn't going to be the top receiver at USC, believe it or not. So that's it's interesting and fortunate for people here in Baltimore. But we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk defense because the defense has been dominant throughout these first couple weeks of the preseason, and we're going to talk about it when Purple Playbook continues.
This is the Purple Playbook, brought to you by M&T Bank. The winning prognosis, brought to you by LifeBridge Health. Care bravely.
And welcome back to Purple Playbook. Alex Glaze alongside two-time Super Bowl champion Torrey Smith. The defense has been the story, or was the story, throughout the preseason. A dominant performance in every preseason game, in the joint practice with the Commanders, dominant. We read the stories. We spent a lot of time on the offensive field, but we could hear just how fired up that defense was out on the other field. Just, I think people here in Baltimore, when you think of the Ravens, you think of defense, right? Everyone's waiting for the defense to be restored. Is that realistic to expect in year one under Jesse Minter?
I expect the defense for sure to be better than it was last year. Personnel-wise, you have a defense that still has Kyle Hamilton, prayerfully Namdi Madubuike up front, like Roquan Smith. You have guys that can be anchors of a top 5 defense. So I'm expecting this defense to do well. You add great coaching and scheme to it. You know, you're expecting to see guys fly around making plays. But I think a lot of it boils down to health as always, right? Like if there's a pass rush that they're able to generate, whether it's by winning by themselves, which is when the Ravens are at their best, or where do you have to blitz guys, which we've seen a little bit more than what we've seen in the past. I'm curious to see what it looks like when the bullets are flying, because even my kids were like, man, the Commanders' O-line couldn't block the Ravens at all, right? And that's
your kids were saying that.
That's kind of the kids were saying it. Like it was that obvious how well they did versus the Commanders. And now you go and you look at this team now going into the real thing. Like now it's different, right? It's a completely different ball game. So I'm looking forward to watch the bullets fly. But what I can tell you is this: they had so many hands on deck coaching these guys throughout camp. It was interesting seeing the Bill Walsh program. I saw Pernell McPhee out there helping, giving them the game from a guy that was an excellent pass rusher in this league. Like, the energy is completely different. Their mindset is completely different, and the coaches are doing an amazing job driving home the fundamentals. I'm fully expecting this defense to hit the ground rolling because, I mean, they're about as coached up as any other team in this league.
I'm interested to see which player seems to be unlocked by Jesse Minter, right? Because I think here in Baltimore, you think about a direct comparison, right? You had Odafe Oweh, couldn't do anything here, goes to the Chargers last season, and all of a sudden ends up, balling out. Who's going to be that guy that you think Jesse unlocks?
Ooh, based on what I was looking at, might surprise you a little bit. But I'm actually expecting Trent Simpson.
Okay.
A guy that has a lot of potential at the linebacker position. He's super athletic, right? And kind of felt like he got into the doghouse, whether it's by performance or mindset, whatever. I think he's a guy that in this system has the opportunity to really flash and show. Now, will it happen week 1? I don't know. But I think over the course of time and watching how he's been moving around is going to put him in a position, because you mentioned Odafe Oweh. Sometimes it's not about the coaches or even the team. Sometimes it's about being in a different situation or even having new eyes on you. And I think Trent Simpson is a player who a lot of people may have kind of just tossed him to the side a little bit. But I think he's a guy that can turn this thing around and get his career going on the track that, you kind of projected him going on early on.
Contract year for Trent, and he's posting some practice clips out here on social media, so he's ready. He's ready to roll.
He's throwing out hints.
I think it's going to be Kyle Hamilton, though, and it's not for the reasons that anyone is saying. Everyone, of course, wants to say, oh, Jesse, of course, was working with Derwin James in L.A., and, obviously another chess piece in this game. But when you look at what the Ravens have been doing, or what they did in the preseason, I should say, there's a lot of blitzes from safety, a lot of Keon Martin blitzes, a lot of Keandre Jackson blitzes. And we know that Kyle Hamilton is a factor in the pass rush. I mean, he's dang near an outside backer, if you really want to, give him a position. I'd put him more in the outside backer room than the safety room. But I'm very interested to see how he's used, because he is such a versatile player and can impact the game at every level. So I'm interested to see what Jesse does with him.
I think he's going to be all over the place, and it reminds me of a guy up in Pittsburgh by the name of Troy Polamalu.
Sure.
I think Kyle Hamilton is one of the best football players I've ever seen, right? I'm comfortable saying that right now. I don't care how long that player played. I don't care. He's one of the best football players I have ever seen because of his versatility. Watched him in the practice run by the quarterback, blitzing, which would have been a sack. And at the same time, watched him jump about 12 feet in the air to bat a ball down.
That was crazy.
Like, he's all over the place. And there's no way. There's some stuff we haven't seen now that you can't tell me he's not going to be a guy that everyone around this league is going to know this is the best individual defensive player in the league based on how they're going to use him.
You said you saw him go up and get that ball. Kyle Van Noy actually tweeted that he goes 10 push-ups for dropping it. Did that one look like one that he should have came down with? It looked like a tough play. It looked like kind of
drop behind, but it's kind of hard when you're fully extended. Like the ball, sometimes you get a Christmas present, but it was an excellent play by him.
Will the Ravens defense be top 5 in the league this year?
I say yes. I think that's the standard. right? I think you have your corners that are good enough. I think you have the DBs that are flying around. I think the pass rush is going to be better, right? The defense last year, even as bad as it was, when they were healthy, and had a decent pass rush, they showed flashes. So there's no reason why this defense shouldn't be top 5 in the league.
Anthony Weaver, a proven defensive coordinator, working on the front end of things, and Jesse Minter, a defensive mastermind, working on the back end. Those two coming together could lead to a lot of good things. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we are playing Something or Nothing. You're watching Purple Playbook.
This is the Purple Playbook, brought to you by M&T Bank. The Bottom Line, brought to you by M&T Bank.
And welcome back to Purple Playbook. It's time for Something or Nothing. I'm going to throw out a topic or headline from this week, Tori, and you tell me if it's something or nothing. Got to start with the big news in the NFL this week. The Pro Bowl has been canceled. The game hasn't been the same for a couple years, and I feel like an old man sitting on his porch yelling at the clouds right now. I wish the Pro Bowl used to be great. Hasn't been great for a while. You were coaching in the Pro Bowl games last year. There's still going to be a Pro Bowl team. There's still going to be 88 guys that get the honor, and obviously there's probably some monetary incentive involved in that, but no more games, no more activities surrounding the Pro Bowl. Is that something or nothing?
At this point, I'm going to say it's a whole bunch of nothing because everyone's been calling for it, right? Like everyone's been complaining about the games, even though personally I had a great time coaching the guys in flag. I thought it was super competitive this year, but the reality of it is it's not the same as what I witnessed growing up as a kid, right? I remember watching Sean Taylor hit a punter so hard that he questioned playing football again, right? And that was how it looked. But when I break down and I think about and going through their shoes, knowing what it's like to be a player, it's actually not something based on what these guys are making now that they will ever go as hard as they need to because the risk is completely different. Like the respect that and honor that it had before competing against the best of the best, it just simply doesn't exist. So take your honor, get your little bonus or whatever it may be, and it's best to move away from it.
I want to ask you, though, as a player, because there's the differentiation, obviously, between All-Pro and Pro Bowler. Mm-hmm. I've always assumed All-Pro meant more, but it seems like whenever someone's talking about another player, they're like, oh, they're an X-time Pro Bowler. Mm. And I never really cared about that. I'm like, who cares? This is many time All-Pro. So
All-Pro is the higher honor because it comes from.
Should we just stick with that? Do we even need Pro Bowl?
You got to have the fans involved, right? The fans,
not anymore. I mean,
the fans count to know who they think is the best. Whether you have a.
So you think fans should control your money? Like if there's
You're
money,
right.
if there's money tied to it.
Some guys definitely have incentives from it, but I always feel like this: if you're the best, it's clear. And the guys that have those type of incentives in their contract, typically they're the guys that are up there, and it should be very clear that if they're one of the top 2 or 3 at their position.
All right. Well, there's a couple of guys, as we move on to the next topic, a little upset potentially with a couple conferences in college football, the Big Ten, SEC specifically, because they have banned guys that have declared for the NFL or had any participation in pro activities from returning to college. Is that something or nothing?
It's a huge something. Why are people mad? These dudes left school to go pro at football, not pro at golf, not pro at baseball, and then come back. They're going pro at football. Some of these dudes were actually on the field with the Lamar Jacksons of the world.
In training camp.
With Aaron Rodgers. Some of them were with pros as of last week, and they want to go back to college? No. You're an adult. Get out the house and figure it out.
I agree with you, but just to play devil's advocate here, if you had the eligibility,
I would definitely want to go back and steal from college. They're paying these dudes a whole lot of money.
I was going to say,
if
you're getting
absolutely.
But then I guess the question is, why leave in the first place? If you were that fringe guy that didn't get drafted, then
because
why?
The problem with society in general is everyone never thinks they're the fringe guy. They always think they're the guy. Happens in youth football, happens in adulthood. Everyone thinks their child is better than they are. Everyone thinks they are better than they are. But you better listen to the professionals. Don't listen to these dumb agents.
Don't they grade you? They grade you out. They let you know like
guys
where your
have feelings.
are.
They think, I'm telling you, I've been through this process. You literally submit your papers and they'll give you feedback and say, hey, your projected is this. What happens is guys think, oh man, I'm gonna go have a good combine. I'm gonna bet on myself. They told you what they thought about you. Why did you leave? If you had eligibility to make hundreds of thousands of dollars staying in college, some of them millions staying in college, Why would you go if you're not guaranteed to be a draft pick? If you're not guaranteed to get drafted in the first 3 rounds or so, these dudes are making more money in college. That's just foolish.
I do love Lane Kiffin kind of being the face of this too. He's trying to stir things up.
The minute Lane jumped on it, it was a wrap. They were going to shut that down quick.
I do love him being the face of it. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to wrap up the show. You're watching Purple Playbook.
This is the Purple Playbook, brought to you by M&T Bank. Now, WJC's Purple Playbook, brought to you by M&T Bank.
And welcome back to Purple Playbook. As we wrap up the show, got to ask Tori, by the time we meet next week, the roster is going to be trimmed to 53, and we're going to be working towards the regular season. Any advice for the young guys? Because there's going to be a bubble guy that makes this team. There's going to be a young guy that nobody expected to make this 53-man roster. Any advice for those guys as now they navigate this new, this next level in their life?
Oh, man, you got to just control what you can control and wear your earmuffs. Ignore the noise, right? There's going to be some people that tell you how great you are. There's going to be some people that tell you how terrible you are and how it should have been someone else. You just have to make sure you focus on what you can control. That's your effort, your attitude, and your execution. And day by day, you got to show up, right? When people respect you more when they see how committed you are. It's one thing to be out there. It's another thing for them to see you put in the extra work, knowing that it matters to you to be great. And find vets that are doing it right. Not all your favorite vets are doing it right. Find the guys that are doing it right and figure out and learn how to be a pro so that you can help give yourself a shot at this league.
Couple good vets on this roster as well. We're talking about the Calais Campbells of the world,
Absolutely.
Kyle Hamiltons of
He was
this
one
world.
for me.
You know, yeah.
When I came
That's
out,
crazy.
he's still going.
That's crazy. That's going to do it for this week's Purple Playbook. For 2-time Super Bowl champion Torrey Smith, I'm Alex Glaze. We will be back next week talking about Week 1. How about that?
Yeah.
See you there.